Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishna Yevamos, Parak Test, Chapter 10, Mishna Beis, Mishna 2. Okay, so we had a distinction already in the previous Mishnah between when a woman gets remarried based on the testimony of one witness that says her husband died, or based on the testimony of two witnesses. Now, the way the Mishnah categorizes the difference, or frames the difference, is that when there's only one witness, essentially one witness typically shouldn't help. But there's a special reason that the sages said it can work here. And therefore, anytime a woman were to remarry based on the testimony of one witness, she's getting married based on the authority given by the Beis Din. Basically, the Beis Din has rendered a decision and is telling her she can go get married. And that's her ability to get married. The ability to get married is based on the authorization that Beis Din gives, that the rabbinical court gives her. Now, if two witnesses come, which is always the greatest form of proof to anything in Torah law, so as they bring down here in the notes, it may very well be that the two witnesses that tell her husband has died have to appear before a court. They have to say it in a court. You don't just walk over to a woman and tell her her husband died. Maybe you'd interrogate them outside of the court, whether it has to be actually in the court or not. Maybe that's the question. But at the end of the day, when you have two witnesses, even after they've been investigated and asked questions and checked into, at the end of the day, the authorization, the power for this woman to go get remarried is based on the witnesses. It's not a directive of the Beis Din. It's not a decision of the Beis Din. It's basically based on the proof given by two witnesses. And that's going to make a big difference for the coming Mishnah. So the Mishnah reads, Nisas Alpi Beis Din. A woman got married based on the authorization of the rabbinical court. That means she got remarried based on the testimony of one witness. And then the husband, who was testified about that he's dead, shows up. Teitzei, she has to leave. As we said in the previous Mishnah, she has to leave the second husband, for sure. She's got to even leave the first husband. We consider it, to some level, an act of adultery. She's not intentional, but she's not, so to speak, she didn't act beyond her control. There's a certain negligence on her part, and therefore we say, Teitzei, she has to leave the husband. Now, anytime a person unintentionally, but she's unintentional, that's not a question. Anytime a person unintentionally transgresses a sin that can carry the punishment of karis, the punishment of his spirit being cut off, if you do that kind of sin unintentional, you got to bring a carbon chatas, a sin offering. So now in this case, you've got this woman, right? You got this man, her second husband. The Beis Din said to her, you can get married. Now, the first husband shows up. And, we're penalizing her, but she's unintentional. That's for sure. She did it intentionally. So does she have to bring a carbon chatas? Does she have to bring a sin offering? Says the Mishnah, upatura min ha-carbon. She is exempt from a sin offering. Why is that? The answer is because there is a rule when it comes to a sin offering, that if the reason you did it was based on the directive of Beis Din, Beis Din made a decision for you to say you can do something, and that's what you acted upon, that exempts you from a sin offering. That's the halacha. That's the rule. So in this case where she got married based on one witness, she was getting married based on the guidance or directive of the rabbinical court, and that's what she's basing her actions on, that exempts her from a sin offering. However, lo nisas alpi Beis Din, let's say she didn't get married based on the authorization of the Beis Din, but rather because two witnesses came and told her that her first husband is dead, and now he shows up. Again, Teitzei, she's got to leave both husbands, the first and second, the chayeves b'carbon, and now she's liable to bring a carbon because she didn't act based on the guidance of the rabbinical court. And once she's not acting on the guidance of the rabbinical court or on the decision of the rabbinical court, she has to bring a sin offering. And therefore, the Mishnah points out, which I think Misha's making is thinking about, Yafa Kayach Beis Din. It comes out that the power of Beis Din is stronger shepaitrim and carbon, that it exempts her from a sin offering. Meaning, when it comes to the penalties, according to the Mishna you see here, based on one witness, penalized to the hilt. If it's based on the testimony of witnesses, no penalty. But so in that sense, being the power of it comes out that we are stricter, or it comes out that let me see how they say it here. They say it here very well, right? Even though a woman who married on the court's authority is held responsible to a larger extent and is penalized in a number of ways, right? For getting remarried based on one witness, that she's held more responsible for what she did. Nonetheless, if it came out that she did it based on a bezdin, she doesn't have the responsibility of bringing a sin offering. So based on the responsibility, based on the decision of the bezdin, she gets married based on that. She's a lot more responsible than if two witnesses come. But on the other hand, when it comes to a sin offering, she's less responsible when the bezdin makes the decision, gives her the authority, than when witnesses do. Okay, next. Haruha bezdin linase. The bezdin gave her permission, they rule, she can remarry. Okay, she can remarry. V'halcha v'kilkala. And instead of remarrying lawfully, she kilkala, means she married in a sinful way. The example they give here in the notes, just an example, is that let's say this woman's a widow, right? If she's a widow, she's not allowed to marry a Kohen Gadol, right? So this woman, one witness said, your husband died. Beis Din said, go remarry. And who does she marry? A Kohen Gadol. That means she married unlawfully. She was allowed to marry, but she wasn't supposed to be marrying this guy. Beis Din never said she can remarry to marry that person. And if that's what happens, Yevamos b'karbon. Now she has to bring a sin offering. Because again, she's unintentional. In the sense of, you don't want to bring a widow who marries a Kohen Gadol doesn't bring a sin offering. The sin offering comes for committing an act that's considered an unintentional sinful act that carries the punishment of kares, of being cut off. That's for the fact that she was married. So in this case, although she acted based on the decision of the rabbinical court to remarry, but the rabbinical court's decision was never to remarry someone that she's forbidden to marry. So she's not acting directly based on the decision of the Beis Din, but she's still unintentional, and therefore, in that case, she'll have to bring a sin offering. They only permitted her to marry lawfully, according to Jewish law. They never permitted her to marry not on Jewish law. So when she marries in a sinful manner, she can't say she was acting based on the Beis Din's, on the rabbinical court's decision. The rabbinical court never told her to marry somebody she's forbidden to marry. So therefore, she doesn't have that exemption from her sin offering. At the end of the day, though, her remarriage, from the point of her being a married woman and sinfully marrying a second man, due to her negligence, she marries a second man, and she has all those penalties, which is true. But in this case, she's going to have to bring a sin offering also, because she committed an intentional sin that carries potentially the punishment of kares, of being cut off for it. So it comes out that although we say on generally in the circumstances of the Beis Din allowing her to marry based on one witness, that we would say in that case she wouldn't bring a sin offering. Mm-hmm. In this case, where she married in a way that Beis Din never allowed her to marry, so then she's not acting based on the decision of Beis Din. She's not going to be exempt. She wouldn't be exempt from a sin offering. She's got to bring a sin offering because she unintentionally sinned. Okay, let's do the Chofetz Chaim now. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the laws about accepting Lashon Hara. Inyan Kabbalah Lashon Hara, Sheisira Lanu HaTorah Mizeh, that when the Torah forbids us to accept Lashon Hara, that means we should not accept it as the truth. We don't have to go into length about what kind of person is the person who is accepting the Lashon Hara, about the person he's accepting it about. The The general rule is the following. There's not going to be too many distinctions. Kol ish Yisrael metzuva shel lekabel lashon hara al shum adam Yisrael. No Jew may accept lashon hara on any other Jew. Chutz melapikoros malshinim v'kayetze ba'elu. Except for those who mentioned before, heretics, informers, shiatzim mechala misecha. Their actions take them out from being considered your friend, being part of your nation. They've gone out of the fold. And in that situation, you may accept lashon hara about them. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.